Right now, tens of thousands of people are cheering inside a stadium in Mexico City. The World Cup is here, the biggest sporting event on the planet. And beneath every single one of them, the ground is quietly sinking, faster than almost anywhere else on Earth. 700 years ago, there was no ground here at all. The Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan was built directly on a lake, an entire city on artificial islands and floating gardens called chinampas, connected by causeways stretching across the water. It wasn't a city built near a lake, it was a city built inside one, and for 2 centuries, it worked. In 1521, Spanish forces conquered the city and began systematically draining the lake that had sustained it. Over the following centuries, the water was diverted, channeled, and dried out, turning one of the most sophisticated water cities on Earth into open ground. What replaced the lake wasn't solid earth. It was soft, waterlogged clay, the compressed remains of a lake bed that never stopped wanting to be a lake. On top of that unstable ground, a new capital grew. Streets were paved over former canals. Cathedrals and government buildings rose on foundations sitting on ancient lake sediment. For centuries, the city expanded outward, then upward, adding weight to ground that was never meant to hold it. Today, Mexico City is home to over 22 million people, and the aquifer beneath it supplies roughly 60% of the city's drinking water. Decades of extraction have steadily emptied that underground reservoir. As the water is pulled out, the clay layers above it compress, and the ground has nowhere to go but down. The first person to document this was an engineer named Roberto Gail, back in 1925. He was mostly ignored, but the evidence kept piling up. The Metropolitan Cathedral, construction started in 1573, has visibly tilted for decades. The Angel of Independence Monument, built in 1910, has needed 14 extra steps added to its base over the past century, just to keep up with the ground disappearing beneath it. In 2026, NASA released satellite data from the NISAR system that made the scale of the problem impossible to ignore. Parts of the city are sinking by roughly 2 centimeters a month, adding up to nearly 25 centimeters a year on average. In the worst affected zones, the rate climbs even higher. Over the last century, some parts of the city have dropped more than 12 meters. This isn't a slow geological process anymore. It's fast enough to track from space. Here's what makes it genuinely dangerous. The sinking isn't even. A metro tunnel that shifts unevenly along its length is a structural risk. Water pipes fracture where the ground pulls apart at different speeds. Every fracture leads to more water loss, which leads to more groundwater pumping, which accelerates the sinking even further. It's a feedback loop with no natural end. Which brings us back to today. Estadio Azteca, one of the most legendary stadiums in football history, first hosted a World Cup final in 1970, then again in 1986, and now in 2026, becoming the first stadium ever to host World Cup matches across 3 different tournaments. But ahead of this tournament, engineers and reporters raised real concerns about ground subsidence beneath the stadium itself, the same citywide problem playing out under one of the most watched buildings on the planet. Millions of fans, one of the biggest global stages in sports, sitting on top of the exact crisis this video is about. A few weeks ago, we told you about a city sinking under the weight of the sea. Venice is fighting water pushing in from the outside. Mexico City is fighting the exact opposite. Ground collapsing from underneath because the water that used to hold it up is gone. Different mechanism, same ending if nothing changes. Some engineers believe parts of this city could sink dozens of meters more over the next century. The lake is gone. But in a way, Mexico City never really stopped being built on water. It's just learning that the hard way, 1 centimeter at a time.